All right, the first thing I'm gonna do is put some paint down on this and let it dry. So I've got, this is the only thing is there's some dry down time with these things, and I thought that I would get started with that. And then I got whipped up about the idea of using a fluorescent in there. So I got some fluorescent paint out because, you know, nobody can ever have too much fluorescent, right? The first thing you do is prepare a substrate with some paint and let it dry. But I am using pieces of paper the size of our StencilClub offerings. What I like to do is what you just saw here, is I just dribble a little bit of paint and then take my tiny brayer and blend it up. So I'm gonna set that aside to dry and wipe off this brayer. Let's look at the stencils first. And they're just beautiful. They're so springy and so beautiful. And they're really perfect for this Vaseline technique. I am particularly smitten with the 6x6 and also naturally the 4x4. I love those because I always love the sweet little ones. And these are some of the pieces of Vaseline paper that I have made with them. So here are the 4x4s that I made, and here's the process. The Vaseline technique could not be more simple, and I'm going to show you the whole thing. Paint, Vaseline with stencil paint. 3 steps, super easy. So these are the 4x4s that I made. This is a little scrap I made where I messed it up, but I thought it was really pretty, so I just saved it. This is one where I used as my top. So the color you're seeing through is the first coat, the first batch of colors. So that would be like what I put down here, okay? And then we put the Vaseline down, and then we put a color on top. So the dry down time is the most challenging. Wow, that dried pretty fast. I'm gonna actually use this one. This is one I made before. And since it's gonna have to sit and dry for a minute, I'm gonna go ahead and put the Vaseline and the black on, and then I'll keep showing you these and I will tell you my thoughts. Okay, so you paint, then you lay your stencil on top, and I use a palette knife, and you put Vaseline over top of the stencil. Go to just like the dollar store, it's $1. I am just using Bristol paper on this, but any kind of paper is gonna work on this. The fluorescent is my golden fluorescent paint. So then you just use your palette knife to swipe Vaseline across the stencil. I know this probably seems so crazy and counterintuitive, but it really does work and it's really cool. So I just palette over to the height of the stencil. When we used to do this back in the day, we just glopped it on. We were trying to create a peeled paint effect, and so we just used to glop it on in any old way. But with the stencil, I've just found that the palette knife is the best way to apply it, just like you'd be applying a texture product or something. All right, so then you're done with the Vaseline. Now I'm gonna just wipe off my palette knife. So now I'll peel the stencil up, and I'm hoping you'll be able to see there. I think you can get a good view of how the Vaseline looks sitting on the surface of that stencil. But I have found that a baby wipe is the easiest thing to get it off with, because it kind of cuts through the Vaseline part. And I just do one side, and then I also do the other side. So it's very easy to clean it up. And then I just use my baby wipe to wipe off my Teflon too. All right, now here's the part that's weird. And I'm gonna talk about the colors in a moment, but I really like the power that the black brings to it. I just think that the black, I don't know, it really pops it up. When I did the first batch, let's see, my very first 3 were this one, and this one. And it was my idea I would use the 3 gessos that I use. Black, white, and then the Daniel Smith gold. And, you know, I liked it, but I really just liked the black, the power of the black so much. It ended up being my favorite, so I sort of stuck with that. Now, here's probably the hardest part of the whole thing, is to paint over it, because it just seems like something you wouldn't do. This Vaseline is never going to dry, right? It's always going to just sit there. And so all you do is just gently, like you are barely touching it. You put your paint down and then just barely stroke it across the gesso or the substrate that's got the Vaseline on it. I just don't know if you guys can see how I'm truly barely touching this. I've got a lot of paint on the brush. I'm hitting it and then just barely moving it around. Let's set that one aside and let it dry for a bit. And then this is already dry. This dried down really fast. Then this is a dye spray. So let's go ahead, put it down. You can see it right away beating up, which that's certainly nice to see it beating up. That's pretty cool. This would change everything if it works with this, right? Ooh, yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Yeah. Low, cool button. All right, let's see. The Seth is almost, you know, it's interesting. It's kind of evaporated and it's almost too much the same color. I'll be interested to see what happens when I wipe this off, because I don't know if it's too much of a similar color, but boy, it looks cool just like that, right? Let's wipe off half of it and see what happens. You know, I do think it added something to this in the background. You guys think? Oh, maybe the glitter paste would be, it seems like it popped it up a little bit, that purple. I'm not positive. So, I'd like to get this one dry enough to actually try it. All right, let's see if we've got enough of this black dry. I'm not going to be able to pull it off the whole thing, but I think this part here, this part over here might be dry enough. Just a little bit longer right there. Here's some right here. All right. Now, see what happens. I wanted you guys to see this. When, you know, the paint is so thick on top of there that what happens is some of the underneath paint is still wet. So even though it looks like it's dry on the top, you've got underneath paint that's still wet. So when you wipe away, I wipe away first with the paper towel, and then I get a baby wipe. Now this one, it's just too wet underneath there. Even the baby wipe is not going to help. But typically, if you use the baby wipe, then it would remove that black. But this one is just still too darn wet. I'm kind of glad that this happened, because this is exactly the hardest part of the whole process, is waiting for it to dry. Holy cow. And actually, that is still kind of pretty with that black, because it's kind of grungy. Let's see what happens. This half has still got the Vaseline on it. You think I should pour some Dina on it? I should, Lord. I mean, I mainly love using stencils for our resist techniques. I think it's one of the lesser used ways to actually get some mileage out of a stencil. And I love how it turns out, you know? It's just cool. All right, now in this case, I think our palette knife might be just the ticket here. Let's see if I can get it to go over that. Oh, you guys, this might be it. We'll have to see. We will have to see. Yeah, do a bunch at one time. It's definitely the way to go. All right. I think this might have some potential, peoples. We shall see. Now, again, the issue is going to be weighting. But look at how you can just see how this gloss spray is so liquid it just went down all around that Vaseline. I mean, you can see that right there, huh? That's pretty cool, I think. I think that what we're finding right now is it just needs to be a more permanent kind of paint. Like our dye inks are probably not going to be enough for it. So let's see what happens here. Oh yeah, this is it, you guys. Look at the difference. I'm glad I did this on one side. Look at the difference between the dye ink side and the gloss spray side. I think that gloss spray might be the thing to use on top, because in addition to the fact that it looks so cool, it's more liquidy and it goes down in and around the Vaseline in a much better way. And I'm so fond of this particular color too, this eggplant. Oh my gosh, I love that color. I consider it a neutral. In my world, it's a neutral. So just in and of itself, the quality of the gloss has left some texture. So that's kind of fun. Well, listen, I hope you have learned some things about these resists and creating all these different effects. My final analysis, my faves are fluorescent paints, the gold, and the gloss spray on the top. And I think consider different colors. I mean, I used opaques and, or not opaques, fluorescents and a lot of other things here and really went wild. But imagine if you used more earthy colors. That could be very cool. The gold and the earthies. Sometimes you just don't know. So play with it. I think it's going to be some fun. And I can't wait for you all to post some pictures of what you've done and tag me up so I can take a look, okay? And I'll be